We are live on a Friday. It's the 28th of February as we get ready to close down this month. Apologies for running a little bit late for our live audience. You guys know how it goes. I've been out here in Indianapolis at the Scouting Combine all week, and while we won't have a featured guest on today's show, Sarah, I think we're playing the long-term game, and a lot of these conversations that I've had just within the last hour hopefully will set us up nicely in the coming weeks as the NFL draft nears. Folks like Jordan Reed, who's an NFL draft analyst for ESPN, Todd McShay, Andrew Siciliano, formerly of NFL Network. He's now the voice of the Cleveland Browns, and a number of others that I've spoken to that, again, we won't be hearing from them today, but I think it'll pay dividends for us in the coming weeks and months. So looking forward to all that and more, including the next hour or so where we'll speak about, the guy who I think was the winner of Thursday here in Indy, and that is Shemar Stewart, the Texas A&M pass rusher. Some have mocked him to Baltimore. We'll take a look at what he pulled off yesterday and look back through some of the content pieces that I've done this week. Dan Graziano, ESPN insider, Jeremy Fowler, ESPN insider, had some interesting things to say about the wide receiver market and several names that have been buzzing that obviously impacts the Ravens and how they might handle business over the next month or so. And we will have a mountain list of quick hits as well. It's good to see you. Happy Friday.
It's good to see you. Happy Friday. The sun is out where I'm at. So it's a happy Friday morning. And you came on here almost like you're apologizing for not getting a featured guest today. Bobby, Baltimore has been cooking out there in Indy. I mean, so many interviews that we haven't even been able to get to all of them yet. This gives us a chance to kind of dig into some other interviews you've had on your personal channel, like you said. So no, you've been cooking really for 2 months with the way you've been going across the country. So I'm actually excited to dive in because I listened to some of your interviews with Graziano and then Fowler, obviously two insiders there at ESPN. And we haven't been able to get to like some of their comments on both the wide receiver market and then Jair Alexander, which we've gotten a lot of questions about since Ravens could use a corner. He obviously has been connected to Lamar. So what I first wanted to do, if it's okay, I mean, it's your interviews. But sometimes when it's yours, you don't really know because you're like you're asking the questions. You don't know what's like sticking out to the audience. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is pretty interesting. So I wanted to start with the wide receivers, if that's okay with you.
Definitely.
All right. So we've been asked if the Ravens will go all out, right, and get another target for Lamar Jackson. I think for the most part, people are pretty happy with the top two wide receivers currently already under contract, and they are super cheap right now with Zay Flowers on his rookie contract, and then Rashad Bateman on that brand new 3-year deal that he signed before last offseason. Might be the best value contract in the NFL right now at the wide receiver position. But Bobby, it's nearly bare bones after that. You've got Devontae Walker, last year's draft pick, and then there's really nothing else. And you've talked about it as one of the bigger needs, the wide receiver position. And it may become that because I'm looking at other positions that need starters, but the Ravens for sure need depth. And some say, why not go a little bit bigger with one Deebo Samuel, which that hit the Baltimore news pretty hard a couple weeks ago because Adam Schefter named Baltimore as a potential trade partner for Deebo Samuel. And then people have asked about Devontae Adams, who has said in the past, hey, if I had to choose between an 800-yard season and playing with Lamar Jackson, and I wouldn't be able to produce as much, and it might be tougher with the other receivers and tight ends and Derrick Henry and all of that, he's like, I might choose playing with Lamar Jackson. So what the question is it feasible? And I think what Dan Graziano told you about their market helps the Ravens. So let's get in on those two wide receivers.
Oh, I don't think they're going to be able to trade him. Cap-wise, the hit is massive. If they trade him, it's over $30 million. I think they're going to have to cut him and make him a post-June 1st release. So when that happens, anybody can get him. And then that's a question of like, well, what is he for you? We know what he is for the 49ers. He has been an amazing player for them. That is a coaching staff, a highly creative coaching staff that knows how to use that player and get the most out of him. If you're signing him, are you that coaching staff, right? Like, don't bring in Deebo Samuel and just make him one of your two outside receivers. Like he's a chess piece kind of guy. So I'll be interested to see who takes a shot on him. I'm sure somebody will. He's incredibly talented and great, but I do think he's a guy that's more likely to be street free agent than a trade.
And I lied one more because we did have a conversation about Devontae within the last couple days.
Another guy that probably gets cut. Right?
Wow.
Because it's $36 million like that. That you talk about a contract that was built to have the last 2 years chopped off. That's one of them, right? When he goes to the Raiders and they say he was never going to see this money. So I do think he ends up being on the market.
32, right? If I'm not mistaken, the all-time. I mean, one of the all-time technicians. Still got it, right?
He had a game in like week 17 where he had like 200 yards in the second half. Like it was, I mean, he's still got it.
Yeah.
There's no question. And it's not just because he's with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen him produce with other guys. So, I think he'll make somebody happy.
All right. So you seem like you were a little surprised by it. Remember when we talked about Davante Adams? I think it was last week. And I said, get back to me if he gets cut. Because I didn't think anybody was going to pick up this massive contract. Let me see. I think I got it here coming up. Yeah, I didn't think anybody was going to pick up this massive contract for Davante Adams because his base salary for 2025 is almost $36 million. So when people were asking, like, could it be Davante Adams? And I was like, get back to me if he gets cut. And then here's Dan Graziano telling you at the Combine in Indy that he's going to be cut, most likely. And your reaction is, wow. So now that you've had some time to think about it, and we're able to circle back around, what are your thoughts?
I don't know why I was so surprised in the moment. We had already talked about it. I don't even think I meant to be that I came across. You're right. I came across as surprised, but I think it goes back a couple minutes ago to what you said. This sets the Ravens up nicely, right? Like if they don't have to be trade candidates, that just gives them more flexibility. There's more options are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Why give up draft picks if he's going to hit the market in a couple weeks? And then that first question off the top was the same. You said the same thing for Deebo Samuel. He's like, I really don't. And listen, Graziano is the type of guy that's talking to everybody across the league. And he's saying, whereas when Adam Schefter kind of put that out, I said at the time, I said, the way Adam Schefter is talking, I know he just talked to an agent. And I know he named Baltimore because Baltimore's always a name when you talk about needs for a wide receiver. Now, in this case, they have a different type of need. It's usually the Ravens are looking for another number one because they haven't had one, right? This time, they're like looking for, a 2-3 type guy, maybe even a 3-4. And so it's obvious that Schefter would be like, oh, I think the Ravens could be interested. And he was saying it as a speculative thing, not as I heard the Ravens are interested. That was more the agent is looking to drum up some interest type of thing. And maybe even the 49ers are too, because they don't want to give him away for nothing. But Bobby, if both Davante Adams and Deebo Samuel hit the wide receiver market, well, that's good news for the Ravens. Now, I'm not saying the Ravens are going to be able to go out and for sure get them. It gives them a better chance, which is what I think Ravens fans want to hear. But again, it all depends. Does Davante Adams really want to play with Lamar? Because that's what he said. So he'd sacrifice some stats. Would he sacrifice some money? Okay, but let's say the Ravens, it's still good news even if the Ravens aren't able to get either one. And here's why. Let's look at this list. This is done by Fox Sports. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. These are the rankings they have for the top wide receivers about to hit the market. So T. Higgins, we'll see if he does hit the market. I don't think the Bengals are going to pay him, but they could maybe franchise tag him again. But the Ravens aren't going to pay for the biggest, wide receiver on the market. They got Chris Godwin at number 2. They got Stephon Diggs at number 3. They got my guy who I've been calling for at number 4. And then DeAndre Hopkins at number 5. You add Deebo and Davante Adams to this market, it probably pushes everybody down except for maybe T. Higgins because he's younger. Right? So suddenly, if the wide receiver market is flush with greater talent, then maybe some of these other guys become more realistic, even if you don't go out and get a Deebo and an Adams.
Hey, one note, too, on that number 2 player right there, Godwin. Remember when the Ravens and Bucks played on that primetime game in Tampa this past season, and maybe it says it in this little paragraph right here, he left with a very serious injury. There it is right there. Yeah, dislocated left. It was a dislocated left ankle.
Ooh.
We all remember that one.
I remember Ravens fans being like, prayers up for Chris Godwin.
Yeah, they were losing,
when it happened.
They were losing players and guys that night, like every other snap, it seemed. So that just stood out to me. He still finds himself top 2 on this list, despite. So it looks like, okay, he turned 29 this month.
Yeah.
And again, coming off, and he has had previous injury history as well, but a dislocated left ankle that we all had a front row seat to that night. Just something that's notable. Still finds his way out of the top 2 slot, though, which is somewhat surprising.
It is, given, is he really going to be ready by the beginning of the season?
Right. They played,
right.
When did they play? They played in October, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
somewhere in the middle part of the season.
It felt like October-ish. Yeah. So maybe he could be. Obviously, it takes longer to recover the older you get. Stephon Diggs, I haven't even heard people talk about him much. Although I got to tell you, I do not see a Stephon Diggs being cool with a number 3 role. Let's be honest.
No.
Amari Cooper, I could. I know I've talked about him a few times. I could definitely see him being cool. And again, the Ravens need a veteran. So this is why I think it's important to be looking at the wide receiver market. I think that they're looking for a veteran in the room because Zay's young. I know Rashad Bateman, he's a little bit older, but still a young guy. Nelson Aguilar was that elder statesman, and I know how Eric DeCosta and the Ravens think. They like to have at least one veteran for a young group. So that's why I want to keep looking at this. Like, to me, Amari Cooper's like that guy to be able to do that. DeAndre Hopkins, is he ready to be a number 3 at this point?
He better be.
He better be because it's that kind of place in his career, right? So that seems like maybe realistic. Yeah, Keenan Allen's. I don't think Marquise Brown is coming back. I know a lot of people keep asking that. I don't think the Ravens would take him back. Was it Darius Slayton who you liked, or was it a different Giants guy?
Well, when we did that exercise, I chose Slayton out of the realistic.
Gotcha.
For the what's the right way to put it? I was trying to look at it realistically from a Ravens front office spending standpoint. So, yeah, that was the player. I can't remember who you were with that day, but I do remember that exercise.
No, I said Amari Cooper again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You were Amari, yeah. But to your point here, right, like these 2 players that we're talking about here, opening up the show, find their way on this list in Debo and in Devontae.
Right.
All these players that we're mentioning are going to be sliding down. They're going to be sliding down.
Sliding down, which is good news. Good news for the Ravens. Bobby, I didn't pull this clip, but I see a couple people in the chat asking about Cooper Kupp. I know you asked Fowler on Cooper Kupp. What did he have to say about him and his potential market?
Gosh, what the heck did he say? I got to go back and look at that because I was firing off players.
Questions.
I'll
tell you. He said that he thinks that there is a market for Cooper Kupp, meaning trade market.
Yes, and that he thinks that he is. Now you're jogging my memory here because I did Fowler and Graziano right on top of each other. I think it was he thinks that he'll be a true number 2 wide receiver at this point in his career, and that there will be a robust market for him. Was essentially the way to summarize it quickly. Spark notes. Those were the 2 takeaways.
Yeah. So to me, Cooper Kupp isn't going to happen. When you have potentially a Debo and a Devontae about to hit the market, the Ravens aren't going to give up draft picks for their number 2/number 3 receiver. That's not going to happen. But now we're looking at guys that are more realistic that could come. Meanwhile, how about Jair Alexander? Now, let me see here. Jair Alexander, as we know, and a lot of Ravens fans were asking about this when Ian Rappaport just a little while ago said that the Packers have had trade conversations around the star cornerback. And he says they are open to moving him for, quote, the right price. He is just 28. He is a 2-time Pro Bowler. He did go to Louisville. And this is so funny to me, just because I'm not big into this, but the betting markets always like to put odds on which players could land with each team. So other than the Packers, is it Bovada?
Yeah.
Bovada has the Ravens as the second best odds to land Jair Alexander. Why they chose Baltimore, I don't know. Vegas usually knows stuff that the rest of us don't know. But again, you talked to Fowler about Jair Alexander, and he didn't really think that it was going to be. He didn't really think it'd be a big chance that the Ravens would get him. Here he is.
Jair Alexander. I mean, everybody in Ravens Nation, they say, "Oh, Lamar and him played at Louisville together. They got to get the band back together."
Yeah.
But what do you think his market's looking like?
It's early.
The guy's been banged up 3 of the last 4 years.
It's early, yeah, but he's as a player, he'd probably be the top corner free agency if you take that out of it, but you can't take that out of it. So I would think he's got a market. It wouldn't take a massive trade haul. Like it'd be pretty reasonable just given his age. Actually, he's still pretty young though. I think he's 27.
I mean, late 20s, yeah.
If he can stay healthy, he can be a really productive player. You don't know how motivated he's going to be, but I think he's motivated. So they can shake something out. I don't know if I see Baltimore doing that, just given what you'd have to give up and what you'd have to pay him to. But they do need an extra corner.
So he turned 28 this month.
Yep.
Did Jair, and as we pulled in here, and as you heard me allude to, 3 of the last 4 years he's been unavailable. Unavailability has been an issue for him. It's been his Achilles heel. 2022 was his last full season, but he's played in just 14 combined games the last 2 years. And then you go back to 2021, he played in just 4. So, look, nobody's going to doubt his ability. The guy's a dog. He's a 2-time second-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. He's a lockdown corner when available, and I think that's sort of the key word here, when.
That's exactly it. And Bobby, when you see numbers like this, and we're the last 4 years, first of all, he's never played all 17 games, but he has played 16 a few times. But when you have 3 out of the 4 years that you haven't even played half of the games, that's a problem, especially when, as Fowler is saying, people are going to have to trade for him. So you're not just like, to me, if this availability pushed him to the point where he got cut and then he would be a bargain, then it's like, okay, I could see the Ravens taking a chance. But why would you give up so much in terms of trade assets and then also salary cap? And if he was traded, look at this, you'd have to do a new deal. In 2025, he's worth $16 million, and then 2026, $18 million. That's his base salary. For the Packers, it's a lot more. I see why they're like saying, yeah, well, we're open to trading, because for us, the cap hit would be 25 and then 27 million, and you just haven't been available.
And
so you'd have to do a new deal. How can you justify paying 16 million for a guy that hasn't even played half the games in 3 of the last 4 seasons?
Yeah, I don't think you can justify it, especially when we think that Brandon Stevens is, as in terms of what Eric DeCosta had to say earlier in the offseason, going to be able to test the market. And as then I heard earlier this week that he was going to have a sneaky good market, which of course garnered all kinds of reaction within the Ravens fan base. But Sarah, wouldn't you rather, like, clearly they have to bring in somebody to compete with the TJ Tampas of the world to replace Brandon? But wouldn't you rather do that with kind of cultivating some young talent, and then you build around all the already established veterans that are in your secondary, in Marlon and in Kyle? So
yeah,
I just that would be a hard sell for me in terms of Jair. Now there's others. There's definitely others that are out there that are probably more attractive than this, but this to me would feel like a big gamble.
Yeah, it would be a very big gamble. And I thought where you were going with that when you brought up Brandon Stevens, I thought you were going to be like, wouldn't you rather just keep Brandon Stevens? I was going to be like, no, I don't want either one. Like,
I wasn't going to go that far.
I know. I'm glad that you took a turn away from that. I was like, where is he going with it?
No. Yeah, I mean we've beat that to a pulp, haven't we?
We have beat that. I love it how people are like in the chat, Sarah, you're drunk because he's a top 3 corner. We know he's a dog. I promise you that. But when a top 3 corner isn't even available for half of each of the 3 of the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Why do I like? I mean, what are we doing here? Why would you pay that much for a guy that played 7 games in 2024, 7 games in 2023, and 4 games in 2021? Who's drunk?
Well, let me
Who's
just add
drunk
on to here.
Who's drunk here?
Manny OSO. The only thing Sarah's drunk on is life. All right, that's the reality of that. But this right here, yeah, there's nothing really. Unfortunately, there's really nothing else that needs to be said. What are you without availability in this league?
You
not
are
much.
nothing if you're not available.
Not much.
And the last thing, shoot, I just lost my the last thing that we just don't know, and I wish we did. I would love to know what the Ravens think of TJ Tampa. Like, do they think he's on the cusp of being able to be like a solid starter for us? Do they project him to be Brennan Stevens or more? You know what I mean? Like, that is such an unknown to us. But they for sure are drafting a corner. And I bet they would draft a corner for sure the top 4 rounds, maybe top 2 or 3, And so that's where I think that they might be going, really, in that area. Last thing I'd want to do in terms of some of your interviews on veterans, okay? ESPN's Jamison Hensley wrote a story this morning about, are the Ravens considering to trade a tight end, Mark Andrews? He didn't say much that we haven't already said, so I don't want to go too far into this. But there's a deadline here, and it's not just free agency. Jamison writes, the Ravens have a decision to make with Andrews on March 17th. When he is due a $4 million roster bonus. Okay. So if you're trying to move on, you might want to do that before that $4 million roster bonus sets in. And if March 17th, he's still on the team and you've just paid him $4 million, there's a good chance he's sticking around.
And so notably, that is 5 days after the new league year begins, when the frenzy kicks off. So if you're looking for a little date to circle of when there could be activity, it'd be that day, 4 p.m. Eastern on the 12th.
And you asked Jeremy Fowler, what could the market be? Who could be looking for a tight end? Here's what he had to say.
Enough teams need a tight end. I think of the Jets, who are losing one. Saints are losing one. Washington needs one if they don't re-sign Zach Ertz. So there are some options out there that Baltimore could maybe explore. Because I do think what's tricky about his situation is he probably needs a new contract. And so does Baltimore want to do that or not? Do they want to get something together that lessens his cap hit now and keeps him there for multiple years? Or do you want to just move on? I think they probably need to make that decision now. And no option is a bad one, I just think it's about the preference from the player and the team.
So he named 3 there, and then who else did you have? Somebody else said Indy. Indy needs a tight end too. So there's 4 right there.
Tell me Indy. Chris?
It might have been Graziano.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Sarah, you remember it. These interviews blend together.
Yeah.
It's just insane here. I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast this morning.
That's why I'm watching your stuff, buddy. I got you.
I was going to say, I couldn't even tell you the Cooper answer before I thought about it.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, March 17th, you got to mark your calendars. Now, he said something there that I kind of agree with. He said there's really no bad option for the Ravens when it comes to Mark Andrews. I actually, as much as I've been saying that he very well could be traded, and I'm saying it for cap reasons, and I was not happy with the way he, the divisional round and the media and all that kind of stuff. But when he says there's no bad option, I actually don't think it's a bad thing that the Ravens keep him. They will have to try to find money elsewhere for sure. And maybe it's because Skept is saying the Cardinals need one too. So there's people out there. So maybe I don't think it's bad if the Ravens keep Mark Andrews. Now, if they keep going to Mark Andrews when the game is on the line, then I'm going to be upset. Don't keep doing that. Go to Likely, go to Zay, go to Derrick Henry, go to Lamar. So, but having him here and producing the way he does, that's not a bad option. But I also don't think it's bad if they were able to get a 3rd-round pick out of him and then create salary cap, and then Likely really gets to step up and become his own. And then they use this draft class that has plenty of tight end depth. One other thing I want to say, because I was saying that like the Ravens are going to have to look elsewhere to find money because this is one significant place they can get it. The other significant place, as we've talked about, is Lamar Jackson. But you know what I was thinking about this, Bobby, that we haven't mentioned before? If Eric DeCosta and his visit down to Florida, as Jeff Zrebiec said, is going to be in major part about his contract. If they are able to get an extension done and nobody in the national media is even sniffing it. Because if you remember, one of the reasons why there was so much consternation is because everybody and their mothers had an opinion on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And then you had teams chiming in when he asked for a trade. Teams are like, no, we're not going to be looking for Lamar. Like Atlanta famously was one of those. And then many others chimed in. And then it was like, are the Ravens doing him dirty? And then it was, well, is Lamar really able to negotiate his own contract without an agent? Is this really a good move? And then it was just like every single day there was some sort of drama that was media manufactured that wasn't representing reality, which according to Jeff said that negotiation made Eric DeCosta and Lamar Jackson closer than ever. And there was a newfound trust between them. And Jeff is one of the few people who talk to both of those guys frequently, right? One of the very few people. And so if Eric DeCosta and Lamar Jackson are able to get an extension when you have been asking national analysts after another, both at the Super Bowl and the Combine, and it's going over everybody's heads. I think both Eric and Lamar would be like laughing as they sip on pina coladas on the beach in Florida, coming up with this new contract, and nobody knows about it. And one day it's announced because Lamar doesn't have an agent that's talking about it. You know, EDC is not going to talk about it. It would be the best scenario ever for those two sides.
And they did a pretty darn good job the first time around with keeping it relatively buttoned up as best they could. I mean, that was so different than where we are right now, right? With the amount of storylines that are front and center at this point in the offseason. Yeah, you're right. It'd be completely under the radar. And I have tried my best. I will continue to try my best. You and I made sure we were like, all right, what are our topics? What do we think we want to accomplish at these events? You know, when I was in, like you said, New Orleans and now in Indy. And that has been one where we've essentially, it's back to square one. We have not gotten a lot of context as Jake Asman makes his way into the back of the stream. We haven't gotten very far on that one.
It's us and Jeff Zrebiec and Brian McFarland that have been talking about it. It's crazy to me.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Jeff was great.
Yeah, Jeff was phenomenal.
Can't recommend that one enough, guys. If you haven't checked out it's in the best of section, our one-on-one with Jeff Zrebiec, who was in Indy earlier this week. He was splendid, as usual.
Splendid. I like that. I like that. Okay, should we move on to? I thought maybe we could do a little mock draft spotlight on somebody that's been mocked to the Ravens a few times, and he first came on our radar, Bobby, when Daniel Jeremiah mocked Shemar Stewart, pass rusher from Texas A&M, to the Ravens. Now, we are so focused on the Ravens. You and I, coming out of the season, know very little about the draft until like you're in Indy and you're able to talk to some of these guys and we're able to get more information on them because we're so focused on the Ravens throughout the season. And when we read this on the air, right, for the first time, and we read, he's big, explosive, and disruptive, the production will come. And we're like, wait a minute, what do you mean the production will come? And then we look at it and he's had like, what is it, like 4.5 sacks over his career? Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And both of us were like, not knowing who Stewart is, we're like, it took till year 4 for the last low production guy in Odafe Owe to kind of develop into the guy that he was in 2024, which was a double-digit sack guy. So we're both like, I don't know about this. But Bobby, if there isn't a player that I've come around quicker on, because I knew nothing about him really, right? It was just a stat. But holy moly, not only do I like him now, but now I don't even know that he's going to make it to 27.
He was the winner of yesterday.
He's the winner.
He was Thursday's winner. I mean, this dude went off yesterday. He's 6'5" and ran a 4.59 on his second attempt. He weighed in at 267 pounds. So, yeah, everybody in the chat's like not only a lot more intrigued the way we are, but also assuming what you just assumed, and that is that he will not be there at 27 after putting up these kind of scores here in Indy. Shemar is a problem, and his draft stock just went through the roof within the last 24 hours.
So Kent Lee Platt, he's the creator of the Relative Athletic Score, okay, the RAS, and you'll see these all over the place throughout the next couple weeks and leading into the draft. So he said we officially have our first 10.0 perfect score of the season. 10.0. His rank out of 1,802, nearly 2,000 defensive ends, outside linebackers, pass rushers. He is number 1, going all the way back to 1987 to 2025. Yeah, I could work on the development with a dude like this. I could be like, okay, I could do this. Let me pull up some of, let me present this screen here real quick. Some of his measurables when he was at the combine yesterday. Here we go.
And while you do that, just to be clear, this guy's been busting his butt. In Mobile last month at the Senior Bowl, he weighed in at 281. Yesterday, he weighed in at 267.
And it's not like, and the dude's all muscle. Yeah. Like, where is he finding places to get rid of fat? Like, I'm not even seeing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to throw it out once more so we can all kind of digest this. He ran a 4.59 on his second attempt at 6'5", 267 pounds, down from 281 within a month.
Okay, look at this. His broad jump, 10 foot 11. We can't play him or else we'll get dinged. He jumped 40 inches. That's his vert of 40-inch vert. Again, jumping with 267 pounds. And Bobby, 267 on some people is not the same as others.
Nope.
I mean, this dude he's all like, there's no fat. He's got to be like less than 1%. It's like 1% over here. Like, that's a different 267 on a 6'5" pass rusher.
Yep.
Holy crap. And
can I give you a quick comp?
Give it to me.
Just for some context. Myles Garrett coming out of Texas A&M, 6'4.5". So he was coming out, he was 6'4.5". He was 272 pounds. He posted a 41-inch vertical jump that year at the combine and a 10 feet 8 inches broad jump. For Shemar, again, he's 6'5", 267, so it's pretty similar. 40-inch vertical jump, 10 foot 11-inch broad jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to kind of give you guys some context there.
So that's what he's doing in underwear at the combine, right? Okay. But you talked to Chris Sims about the tape, okay? Because this opinion change of mine isn't just what he could do in terms of measurables at the combine. First of all, the fact that Daniel Jeremiah, who is a former scout, and all he does is watch tape, and he's saying, yeah, this dude's a first-round draft pick. Then you got Chris Sims, who's been watching some tape, and here's why you had asked him about like the low production in sacks, and he was passionate about why you shouldn't read too much into that.
Going to be another interesting one. This Shemar Stevens from Texas A&M.
Oh, Shemar Stewart.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, have you seen him yet?
I talked to him today. First off, he's charismatic.
He's been mocked to Baltimore, so tell us about him.
Well, he'd be a biggest, baddest pillager on the planet.
Not, you know what the knock is? What's the knock?
Well, it's production.
Yes.
1.5 sacks. I watched
What's
enough film. Well, my response is, first off, in college football, the quarterbacks run if the first guy's not open ever. So you never get a real pass rush. Quarterbacks don't sit in the pocket and wait for things to develop like Lamar or Mahomes or Justin Herbert do in the NFL. So therefore, you don't have the chances to get the sacks the same way. The quarterbacks, and a lot of times, like I watch games, especially with him, it's like they looked at one guy and they ran. And I'm going, oh, he's coming around the edge to get the sack. But this quarterback's an idiot and just decided to run out of the pocket. And lucky he got lucky here. The other thing, too, is, there's plenty of times he beats the tackle easily. Oh, it's a screen pass. Oh, it's this pass over here. And you go, well, damn, he was going to get the sack here. But college football is all read option, RPO, so you don't get those chances. The other thing, too, and I'm big on this stat, and I believe I invented it, is the play-up stat, okay? Because I'm sick of
say that again.
The play-up stat, where I'm going to go, why isn't like Aaron Donald, Michael Bennett back in the day? I used to always say Michael Bennett on the Seattle Seahawks was the best defensive player on the team. I'd go, if you watch the game, he ruins every play. He never gets the tackle or the sack.
Right.
But he's the one that ruins it. And now the running back had to run backwards over here, and somebody else got the tackle. And so that's what the F the play up is. The guy that disrupted and ruined the play, but doesn't get on the stat sheet.
Moral of the story.
Moral of the story
you want
is
people to dive deeper than his underwhelming
don't
statistics.
stop everybody looking at stats all the time. We got to get out of this. We got to get out of it. We're obsessed with stats right now. I had this argument with Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. I got vilified for putting Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. ahead of him in my wide receiver rankings.
How'd that work out?
Yeah, it worked pretty good. But you can't tell anybody, oh, look at his stats.
Right.
So he's at Ohio State. Oh, my gosh, look at this. This is amazing. How about just turn on the film a little bit and go, wait, these LSU guys are burning by people, and he's not really getting open, and he just uses his body and good route running to do that. And that's where I hate the stat reading sometimes.
I had to ask you, I was like, because you were listening to me while I was editing that down, right? Because it was like he was talking about him for a good 4 minutes. I was like, I got to get this down to a closer to 2-minute clip. And I was like, did you really not hear him say that he's an F the play up guy? I'm like, did you just want him to say it again? You're like, no, okay, I didn't hear him. And I'm like, okay. But here's the thing. I clearly yesterday was not happy with Chris Sims. And him alone wouldn't convince me, although he was very compelling right there. There's a reason why he's a national television analyst. He's very what's the word I'm looking for? He's just very engaging, right? Very engaging. But it's what he does at the combine. It's what Chris Sims saw on tape, but also, and this puts it over the top for me, our guy Emory Hunt. Our guy Emory Hunt, who is an absolute draft encyclopedia. When we asked him yesterday on this show, like, who's a pass rusher? Because we were like, we're looking for game wreckers. We're not looking for a guy that's going to come on in 4 years. At number 27, who's a game wrecker? And one of the first people he named was Stewart. Like, that was it. He's like, Shemar Stewart. And he also said, forget the stats, watch the tape. And Chris Sims calls him an F the play up kind of guy. And Emory Hunt called him a game wrecker. And so if it's one of those situations where you can put him in there, because Justin Madubuike, we had a stat I think it was last week or the last 2 weeks, where he was getting, I think he was top 3 in I think he was number 3 in drawing the most double team NFL. So yeah, with so many players. And I feel like that's partly why KVN and Odafe Owe got to eat last year when your defensive tackle is drawing that many double teams. But if you can get another F the play up kind of guy, well, maybe I just don't know that.
Sarah, you still there?
Are you frozen, Bobby? I'm here.
I can't tell if it's you or me, but I got the gist of what you were saying, and I think that snippet right there from Chris was my favorite answer to a question that I posed all week long. And you've already referenced the Nnamdi Madubuike comparison, and I think while Odafe obviously was the beneficiary of some of that, what about a player that has been developing, and that is Odafe? We all want him to finish more consistently when he gets to the quarterback. We get that. But this is a player that when you look at whether it's the statistics or the way that he's diversified his technique, or what the Ravens tell you, which is that they believe in him because they picked up his fifth-year option. It just kind of it lends a little bit of credibility, or maybe gives you more confidence that despite Shemar's production statistically, that he could have a similar, maybe even quicker. I think a lot of us would say, can he have a quicker emergence and a quicker impact than Adafe has? And again, I don't know if that's going to be in Baltimore based on what he put on film yesterday.
Yeah, might not. But there are some other guys. I mean, Emory Hunt talked about Pierce, and who knows how far. I mean, Stewart might get above Carter at this point. That's what some of those guys were saying yesterday, both Chris and Emory. And then with Carter now having the foot situation, yeah, we'll see how far he goes. But should we get to, do we have any, maybe we should get to some super chats and then quick hits. What do you think?
Love it. Absolutely love it. We appreciate you guys for being here. Tila, we got over 1,800 joining us concurrently this afternoon. Just after 1 o'clock, I've been in Indianapolis all week. I'm sure you've probably gathered that by now. It's been a really successful one. And I just want to say thanks to all of our guests that we've been able to track down and that have been kind enough to spend some time with me and obviously lead to populating content on both channels. JP from Cincy hits us with a $9.99, and then for good measure, he's like, you know what? I'm throwing another one your guys' way.
Yeah, nice.
Would trading Marcus Williams help with cap space? We were clearly better on defense without him. #Vault. JP, you don't want to know what'll help? Releasing him. And that's exactly what they're going to do. We'll have a quick hit on that coming up in just a few short minutes. Bird.
Not sure if it would work, however, possibly trade him as well as some picks to the Seahawks for a DK. Is he talking about Mark Andrews? Is that when this came in? When he says possibly trade him as well as some picks?
12:52. This is 20 minutes ago. Where were we?
What time did you say?
12:52. I think that was after Mark, honestly.
Yeah, no, I don't know who he's talking about, who him is. But trade him as well as some picks to the Seahawks for DK or a piece, maybe a young corner.
Maybe it was Mark.
Did we come back to Mark that late?
Regardless, appreciate you, Ober. And Dreams, a.k.a. Queon, says, I'm not big on Shemar. His stats mean more to me than his combine. We've been down this road already. We need win-now players, not another project. I'm going to give Dreams the benefit of the doubt here, though, because that was at 1 o'clock, and that was before we just played Chris Sims. And I'm not saying that Dreams is going to be influenced by Chris to the other side of the aisle, but it was pretty compelling on top of what he did yesterday.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dreams.
All right, some quick hits here. What is this? I think you pulled this one in.
I did, just keeping up with different visits and meetings, and even though a lot of this is just
yeah,
standards.
you're never gonna see me pull in something like this.
No, but just you know what though? It allows us. Hey, now it allows. Let's familiarize ourselves with these players.
Okay.
Especially from a linebacking standpoint, because they need a little bit of depth. Ryan Fowler covers the NFL, covers college football and whatnot. Tweeted out that the following teams have held formal meetings with Oklahoma backer Danny Stutzman, and just the Ravens found their way on this list. He ran a 4.53 in the 40 at 6'3", 233. And he had a heck of a college career. And obviously that's an area while you want to hold out hope for Trenton. And they brought in a new coaching staff defensively, including Tyler Santucci. And they asked a lot of Trenton early last year and ultimately demoted him. They're probably going to want to bring some depth in there. They're going to probably lose Malik Harrison, I would think.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what Harrison's market is. Maybe he comes back on a I don't know, a cheaper deal. But I do think the Ravens are going to draft an inside linebacker. I don't think it's going to be with like a day 1 or 2 pick, though. I think it'll be day 3. And I'm not ruling out the fact that they find one of their next inside linebackers in undrafted free agency, because they have a long history of doing that. So we shall see what they do with the depth there. Meanwhile, when the Browns GM talked about Myles Garrett, he stuck his foot in the ground and he said, yeah, no, we're not trading him. Well, Mary Kay Cabot, friend of the show, covers the Browns, says that Myles Garrett is not open to a contract extension with the Browns. So An extension would be nice for the Browns because then they could, kind of move his cap hit around for 2025. So either way, even if he's not going to do a contract extension, if they don't trade him, he's still on the roster. So, and my gut tells me that if they don't trade him, he would still play.
Still cracks me up being in New Orleans early this month for, I can't remember what day on Radio Row, but the trade request comes down, and then this dude starts prancing around from every show, like up and down the Radio Row. So it's turned into. Yeah,
Myles Garrett did?
Myles requested the trade.
Yeah.
Shows up the next day
at Radio Row
to New Orleans, Radio Row, and decides I'm going to go on every national outlet. I don't know how many shows he actually went on, but point is, he's exercising every piece of leverage he has. But as you've talked about in recent weeks, there's Cleveland's got some leverage as well.
Absolutely, they do. Right now, they do. So just a flashback to how some of the Ravens who just finished up their rookie years, how they did in last year's combine. Nate Wiggins stuck out because he ran the fastest 40-yard dash among all the corners. Look how skinny he is. Look at that. So twitchy. So he was the fastest among cornerbacks, and then Roger Rosengarten was the fastest among offensive linemen.
Let's go, Roger.
Dude can move. Although, look at his face, man. Look at his face. He has given everything he's got on this 40.
Go get it, Raj. Everybody was chasing Xavier Worthy, as we remember. And if Worthy wasn't in the draft class, it might have been Nate's to lose.
That's right. But good for the Ravens because they got him Nate later in the draft.
They certainly did, and that's worked out pretty darn well through one early year.
Oh, this is funny. Out of nowhere, okay? Nobody's thought about Doug Flutie in I don't know how long. But why out of nowhere, Lamar Jackson just tweets the other day, Doug Flutie highlights. And then he's got the coughing emoji and the gasoline emoji. And he has hashtag go crazy. Okay. So, like, who's talking about Doug Flutie? Who's thinking about Doug Flutie, especially in Baltimore? Nobody. It's crickets. And here's Lamar out of nowhere giving him some props. So Doug Flutie's like, oh, this is sweet. Appreciate it, Lamar. But of course, that made me go look at some Doug Flutie highlights. And it is pretty impressive. Homeboy was 5'7". 5'7", this quarterback. And he's running and he's throwing. I don't know how he saw over the offensive and defensive linemen, how he could even look over the trenches. I will never know. But his highlights are pretty impressive. But Lamar just randomly giving him love was the funniest thing on Twitter the other day to me.
I love it. He's a student of the game. I love it. This guy is a legendary college player. I mean, he's a college football Hall of Famer. 1984 Heisman Trophy Award winner. Lit it up at Boston College. Went on to be an 11th round pick in the 1985 draft. By the way, Wikipedia's got him at 5'10". Where'd you get 5'7"?
Well, I was listening to when I was watching the highlights, and he first got his chance because the starting quarterback got his head like crushed, like he was bleeding. So he comes out of the game, and they're like, "And here comes Doug Flutie at 5'7". So maybe they were exaggerating a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Doug. But how about that though? 1985 New Jersey Generals, 11th round pick, number 285. By the way, he's a Manchester, Maryland native. Who knew that? I didn't.
I didn't know that either. Here's what's funny, as I love it when the chat like puts words in our mouths that we never said. Like somebody's like, you didn't know about Doug Flutie? No, I knew about Doug Flutie. I'm saying in 2025 on a random day in February, who is thinking about Doug Flutie?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar's YouTube algorithm certainly was, but I love this. Like this is just and it makes me think about a few things that folks have said throughout this week. And that is when players are well studied about the game that came before them, whether it be the way that it was played, the style with which it was played, or who played it, that's something that teams sometimes will look for. You know, you're a student of the game. You respect the game. You appreciate and respect who came before you, whether it's at your position or not. And so for Lamar, as simple as this was, I just think it says a lot about how he spends his offseason and how acutely aware he is of who's come before him.
Yep. It's crazy because people are now saying, yeah, Doug Flutie came up on my Twitter stream. It's like, yeah, he did for all of us because Lamar got him going again. The NFL Twitter account put out highlights of him.
It's
Like
awesome.
suddenly, randomly, on February, whatever it was, 27th or 26th, suddenly Doug Flutie is on all of our streams.
Doug's got to be thinking, okay,
Yeah,
that's right. I'm back, baby. Jeremy Fowler, friend of the show, ESPN insider. This doesn't come as a surprise, but something that obviously is meaningful for the Ravens. Marcus Williams is preparing for free agency with the full expectation that the team releases him, according to Jeremy's source. A recent contract restructure includes a significant trigger on March 13th, which is the first official day of the new league year. And as we all know, he was benched last year in Baltimore. He has been a productive player throughout his career. He's got 20 picks throughout his time in the NFL, Sarah.
this is one of those things where a national reporter will tweet out news that's not news. Right?
Yeah.
We already knew this. And this, when he does get when he is released, just so you know, the projection of how much money the Ravens have under the cap of $2.2 million, and that comes from Brian McFarland. McFarland has already put into that calculus the money that will be coming from Marcus Williams because it's not news. It's already in there. So when he is cut, don't expect, oh, now the Ravens have this much more money. No, that's already been put into the equation.
Yep. This was inevitable. We all knew it was coming. And our last quick hit today, somebody that I finally had a chance to get to know in person this week, Karita Parks. We use her and share her content often throughout the season, being that she's a credentialed media member. She works for Bowie TV, doing a lot of different things around the DMV. And Karita was in Lucas Oil Stadium, which is funny, Sarah. So just to give you guys an idea of the setup here, I'm in the Indiana Convention Center right now, which is attached technically to Lucas Oil. Where this room that I'm in right now is Radio Row, obviously, and then there's a curtain, a big, huge curtain separating this room. And on the other side of it is where all the player interviews have happened at Podium. And that's where Harbaugh and DaCosta met as well, doing their media availabilities. It's also where a lot of the national shows have set up. So I have yet to actually step foot, funny enough, in Lucas Oil. So at some point today when we finish up the show, because it's literally like a mile, it feels like a mile down when you're in a convention center.
Yeah.
So I need to get down there, and I will. But Karita spent some time there yesterday, and Chuck Smith was involved, Ravens pass rush coach, aka
your favorite coach on the staff.
Haven't been able to track him down yet, which is very disappointing. But he was breaking down what makes a good pass rusher following some defensive line drills yesterday in Indy. And as Karita noted, his quote, in Baltimore, we want dogs. Dogs. D-A-W.
Bobby, I'm seeing that the Ravens put out a video of him doing it. I haven't heard it. Should I just run it live and see what it says? What it's like a wired of him running the combine drills? Should we just give it a try?
Run it.
You can't see it, but let's see what he's got to say. I'll see if I can turn this up loud for everybody.
And he's just giving it right back.
He's talking trash with these guys.
Are you ready?
He's getting clapped at. He got clapped at, so he comes back and being like, let's go.
Let's go.
And he's just giving it right
That
back.
was it. That was it.
Dr. Rush.
A pass rusher's like, because, Dr. Rush has got the, is there an official name for the football that's at the end of a pole? Is there an official name for that?
Ooh.
Somebody in the chat? Is there?
Don't know.
But anyway, the pass rusher comes up and he's lining up. He's like in a stance like this. And he's like clapping at him. He's like, let's go. And then Chuck gets up too. He's like, yeah, let's go. He starts tapping his chest. And it's like, to your point about being drunk on life, like Chuck Smith is drunk on football. Like it's just all the time. When he says he wants a dog, it's because he's a dog. So dogs know dogs. He
was a dog for sure. Yeah, in his playing days, oh man, and he's maintained that dog spirit. But it's interesting that you're making me think of. This is the time of year where a lot of personnel and front office people and scouting, this is their Super Bowl. And so for Chuck, who obviously is, yes, he's a coach, he's an assistant, he's the outside linebackers coach, and that's his primary duties. You got to remember, I mean, this was a non-traditional hire. This is a pass rush specialist.
Right.
This is his thing.
Right.
He works with these dudes. He grooms young talent, and so I think you're seeing and hearing like those types of guys. This is their bread and butter this week. This is their Super Bowl. So
yeah.
I'll continue to reiterate what I have for a while now, that I think that was a great hire by John Harbaugh.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. By the way, Chad is saying different things. Some people saying it's called carrot on a stick. Some people are just like football on a stick, pole ball. And then
Nice.
other people are saying it's called different stuff in different places. So
Nice.
I kind of like carrot on a stick, though.
More super chats here. We appreciate you guys for spending portions of your week with us. Really successful one here in Indianapolis. And Skeptic Goat is in the house.
Oh, Skep with the $9.99. Appreciate you, Skep. He says keeping Mark is good for the Ravens, but isn't best for likely Lamar or the Cap. Can't say I disagree.
Yeah.
Skep's.
It's fair. That's fair.
Agree. Yeah.
Olu, did you see Chuck running the hoop drill with the defensive line, guys? One guy got Chuck hype. I'm sure we will see him. Ahmed Hassanain. Hopefully I haven't gotten that pronunciation yet. Hassanain from Boise. Take a look. Okay, Olu.
Yeah, well, we just did.
Yeah, I was going to say, you played that.
That's what it was.
And let me just
Here,
quickly write down his name because
Okay.
Olu, today, I believe we have access. Let me just get this right now. I'll tell you. Oh, no, excuse me. Okay. Today, from 3 to 9, I can be in Lucas Oil watching defensive backs and tight ends. So it looks like that would have been yesterday.
2 needs, Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Get
going
your pencil.
I'm going to pop over there for sure. So,
Awesome.
Yep. And Kobe Pruitt is in the house. So, of course, this is one. Why don't you want me to take this one?
I'll do it for you
All
since
right.
it's talking about you. I like it better when you read the stuff. I don't like reading like comments about me. Bobby needs a Mrs. Baltimore. Brenda Baltimore. Bonnie Baltimore. Brittany Baltimore.
Okay.
We got to get one of those.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bobby needs a Mrs. Baltimore so she can help him pack more than gray sweaters for a business trip. It is funny. I don't know that they're gray, but I've noticed you have worn the exact same color shirt almost every day this week.
How funny is that?
It's been like a different style, but it's the same color.
Yeah, I had a button down. It was like a, what do you call those? I had a flannel on one day.
Yeah.
I have a sweater on today, but a zippered sweater. I had a non-zippered sweater on yesterday. Wow, Kobe, you're picking up on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But he also says the same thing happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
So he speaks from experience.
Yes.
Love you guys. #Vault.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's all in love. It's all in love.
Kobe, appreciate that. The search is on. All right. Just so everyone knows, March is my month where I hit the road and I do a remote month with my family down in Florida. And you better believe my dating app locations are coming down with me. So stay tuned.
Oh, I told you this, but yesterday I did a hit on 105.7 The Fan early in the morning, like at 8:40. So they're asking all the usual questions about Mark and Jair Alexander and all this other stuff. And as we're finishing the hit, the question is, Sarah, is that co-host of yours looking for love in Indy like he did in New Orleans at the Super Bowl? And I was like, this is how much your dating life is expanding throughout Ravens Twitter or Ravens social media, Ravens media market. Like, I'm getting questions on 105.7 The Fan about your dating life. That's where we've come to in 2025.
I love it. I'm an open book. And I assume that Jeremy Kahn was the one who asked this question. And so I will try to keep Jeremy and everyone else abreast of what's happening here. There's not much to update you on in Indy because it's been, unlike New Orleans, maybe a different market and also more businessy. But I have enjoyed some time at the cigar bar. There's been a lot of great networking. And like I said, probably better luck will be had over the next few weeks in Florida.
All right. Well, Dream says, I'll say it again. Atlanta would be a perfect trade partner if there is a player we want. They need picks, and we have them.
Dreams has been screaming that for a while now. And speaking of screaming, in all caps, Rave Kingdom hits us with a Friday super chat and says, "Don't worry, I'm still here." We weren't questioning whether or not you were here, Rave. We know you're always here. You're waiting in the wings, waiting in the shadows for us. Ben Cleveland, trade Mark Andrews, hashtag 2025. Rave, you better get your last super chats in here because once the new league year begins, he ain't going to be a Raven.
He's just going to have to find a new player.
Ben meaning.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben's
Mark,
definitely not.
sure he's still out.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. He can find a new player.
Thanks,
Maybe he does a thing where it's a John Harbaugh doghouse guy, and that could be his like yearly thing. Just throwing out, just brainstorming with you here, Rafe.
You know what's really interesting is, and I think this just shows the level of maybe care about this Ben thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not one Ravens personnel member was asked about it this week, publicly, in a public setting, which goes to show it's just everybody knew it was over anyway.
Yeah,
they knew it was over anyway, and it wasn't. Yeah. What do you ask?
Yeah.
How disappointed are you? Harv's, that would have been a great way to get a one-word answer from him.
Yeah. Well, but really, when you ask it, you're really burying Ben, right? Like it's piling on with him.
From a reporter standpoint, though, you're asking to get Belichick. Just get Belichick into the corner.
And just to follow up with is it Moggs? Moggs, who's like, Sarah, you didn't know about Flutie, and then I said, wait a minute, I know about Flutie. I was saying, but he says, what in the heck did I subscribe to? So he followed up once I clarified what I was saying. Then he says this: I'm driving and halfway listening. Moggs, I've seen you typing nonstop here, buddy. I hope you're not typing and driving at the same time.
Unreal.
I do appreciate you subscribing. We like that, but let's not literally chat on your phone and drive at the same time. Much love to you.
Well, it's also funny
to keep you safe.
Well, it's also funny if you're half listening and you're gonna try and put words in somebody's mouth. It's like, all right. Oh man. Let's see here. We got another super chat from Jay Howe. Said Ford stays with Rams per chef. Oh, Stafford stays with the Rams.
Oh.
Okay, so
wait, did they strike a deal?
Let's see what we got going on here. Let's do a screen share. Shefty's news breaking. By the way, Shefty and I were at the same establishment last night, and I had to, every ounce of me, Sarah, had to hold myself back from going up to introduce myself. But he was at a table, and he looked like he was in a very serious conversation. So I held off.
Adam Schefter?
Schefter was with Field Yates, and I guess I'll be respectful to the meeting that was taking place because it was a nice speakeasy place, and clearly it was businessy. But let's just say this: it was a team general manager around the league. It was not DaCosta. But
okay.
I'll just be respectful to the
the
private, I guess, nature of the. Although they could have found it, if it was really private, they could have found somewhere that wasn't in a public setting. But there wasn't many people in there anyway. The Rams and Stafford. I know I've been butchering this. The Rams and Stafford reached agreement today on a restructured deal that keeps him in LA. And so all the talk, Sarah, especially the AFC North talk, if there was some, you can put that to bed. Stafford staying as a Ram.
Well, I mean, that makes the most sense for the Rams, and it kind of makes me happy that he'll stay in the NFC. I think he's a top, I don't know, is he top 7 quarterback? I'd have to sit and think about it. Certainly top 10. So we don't need any more of those in the AFC. It's already a gauntlet as is. And this makes the most sense for the Rams. Like, why would you get rid of a quarterback that is going to take you to the playoffs as long as he's healthy? So sounds like all that media hubbub that was going back and forth resulted into a new deal.
Yep.
And so glad that we don't have to talk about him potentially going to either the Steelers or the Browns, because if he ended up with the Steelers, that would have been a challenge.
Guy's a winner. He's a winner, and he stays in LA. D-Rod hitting us on the way out.
Look at all these super chats coming in late.
Yeah, D-Rod actually looks like he pushed it twice. Let's see. As long as Mark doesn't go to the Chiefs, I won't be heartbroken, and hope you two and everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Oh, same to you, Daniel.
Appreciate that, D-Rod. And yeah, if he ended up in Kansas City, I think all of you guys would feel some type of way about that. But Kelsey's not going anywhere, so that would not make any sense.
Yeah.
At least for the time being. Let's get in some patrons here. Alyssa Thomas and Ivan Gunn. We appreciate you both for believing in what we're building and being members of the Vault Patreon community. Thank you so much. This is your monthly shout out. And if you guys are interested in doing the same this offseason, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more about what we're offering. And there's a link in that and the show notes. And also you can see as a pinned comment, a little friendly reminder, help us reach 24,000 subscriptions by subscribing to the Vault today. If you haven't already, would love to hit that number at some point soon this offseason. Great week, partner.
Ooh, what a week for you. Appreciate all the hard work you've had down there in Indy and all the interviews that you got, all the content that you have provided. Been lots of good stuff. I kind of want to ask you, what's been the highlight of being in Indy for you as we close up here on Friday?
The highlight of my Indy trip, one, I love being on the road.
Yeah.
There's just something fulfilling and motivating about being on the road. And then when you're able to kind of manufacture and craft the opportunity yourself, there's something very rewarding about that. So it's a weird way of being like, just being here and having somehow pulled it off.
Yeah,
I think is a highlight.
From that table, did that Houston radio station ever come?
The Houston radio
weren't
station.
Weren't you at a table that somebody was supposed to come next to Aaron Wilson?
Dallas.
Oh, Dallas.
Yeah, they did end up coming. They were super cool about it. I had already been finished up for the day, so I just packed up my stuff, and then as things tend to just work out, Monumental Sports, which is DC based, where I used to intern, is where I'm at right now, and they were only in town through I think yesterday morning. So
easy.
It really worked out well. But I think that's probably, maybe a easy way out on this answer, but I really do believe that just being here and making sure that we're continuing to push the Vault forward, and my personal branding and certain relationships and whatnot, I think has been a really moving experience so far. And then aside from that, I've really enjoyed the hotel bar, not because of like just heavy boozing, but I've showed up to my hotel bar every night after work alone, and I've never not met somebody that I exchanged numbers with. Not even like romantically, just somebody that yesterday we just got 2 subscriptions yesterday, one for the Vault, one for Bobby Baltimore, because he's a Browns fan and he wants to keep up with what's going on in the division. But we like chatted forever, and he was there with his wife. It's just like some dude in town for work.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I just enjoy meeting
your connections. Yeah. Your networking for sure.
Yeah. Finding us definitely had at least one cigar every day too, by the way.
Well, I figured. From the outside looking in, favorite interview of the week we got to do together, Jeff Zrebeck. Least favorite, although I do like this guy, but my least favorite, Chris Sims.
You're hilarious for that because I know why. But on top of that, I think people appreciated the get of Sims. I
appreciated it too.
I know you did.
I love the get, and I really do think he's a fun, cool guy.
And how about I just do this real quick too, to kind of, because this is the end of the week, and next week we'll probably be kind of shifting gears to free agency and whatnot, and starting to continue to looking on the draft side of things. People that I met that I wasn't able to pull off this week.
Oh yeah, let's make a list here.
You know what I mean? Just kind of
follow up with these guys.
Yeah, moving forward, right? Like, who can maybe we expect on the Vault at some point in the near future? Kind of like what happened 2 Super Bowls ago with Kurt Warner. So let's see who. And a lot of this is going to be trying to jog my own memory. The people that I referenced earlier on: Jordan Reed, ESPN NFL draft analyst. He is essentially brought in when they parted ways with Todd McShay.
Okay.
He's risen the ranks quickly. Aditi, and I'm not even going to attempt her last name, but she's awesome. Works for NFL Network. Does a lot of Ravens game.
She's plugged into the AFC North.
Yeah.
Should be a good one.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just had a nice conversation with Aditi. Let's see. Who else did I
Daniel
mention
Jeremiah,
earlier
at least his
on?
people.
Daniel Jeremiah.
Daniel Jeremiah. Yeah.
Definitely Daniel Jeremiah. Probably won't be able to get this name on because of how the Ravens handle things with current members. But I really enjoyed hanging out with Chris Horton, who's a special teams coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He was super cool. That was at the cigar bar, too, which made it that much better. Greg Cosell. I had him on my personal channel
Greg.
in New Orleans, but I had mentioned something leading up to the draft. Todd McShay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, now it's all starting to.
No,
Anyway,
that's a lot. You
I
just named
ripped off
1,
a
2,
few.
3, 4,
Yeah.
5 pretty big names.
Andrew Siciliano.
Not to be confused with Sirianni.
Not to be confused with Sirianni.
Shoot.
Sirianni. Oh, what else did I pull off?
Oh, you're one that you didn't put up, but Tannenbaum. Did you get his number?
Mike Tannenbaum.
Did you get his number?
That was through Lily.
Oh.
That was through Lily. So anyway, just like to keep you guys up to date with various things. Who knows what's going to materialize, right? We never know. But it's one of the main reasons for why I'm coming here. So that's probably an extension of the long answer I gave you about just being here in general. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You've done a good job.
Thank you.
As I said at the top of the show, you've been cooking.
Appreciate you. Well, it obviously helps as it did in New Orleans to have, our home base, which you are, that allows us to kind of be structured and have somebody that can, at least when I'm the connectivity stuff, being on the road can sometimes be inconsistent. So that's super helpful. But with that, we'll close out the week, and we appreciate you guys for hanging with us, and thanks for your patience off the top of today's stream. We hope you have an awesome weekend. We'll be back on Monday. I will be in St. Petersburg. So look, you and I haven't had a chance to catch up about what my weekend plans are and whatnot. So
oh boy,
looking forward to a little March visit in Florida. Let me know if you guys are down there, what you're up to.
Oh wait, you got to tell them the flight you booked yesterday.
It's funny. I was actually going to ask you if you wanted me to tease it. I wasn't sure where you were
Yeah,
going to
let's tease it.
But let's tease it. There will be the inaugural Vault Summit coming to a program near you one day, April 3rd. I believe that's a Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, April 3rd, Thursday night, April 4th.
Okay.
Was when they will see. Yes.
12 noon Eastern on Friday, April 4th. Sarah and I will be in person together celebrating the inaugural Vault Summit in Columbus, Ohio, where I will be flying into the night before, hanging out with the Ellison family all weekend long, getting a ton of back-end business stuff and visionary stuff done with you. I cannot wait. It was super cool that your husband actually came up with this idea.
He did come up with
to
the
begin
idea.
with. And I feel like I know your kids. I feel like I'm like an uncle type figure or an older brother type figure.
They're
I can't
excited
wait
to meet you. Gardner's already met you, but the girls are definitely excited to meet you in person. So Zayden. Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you guys want to help put together our itinerary or what we should be accomplishing within those few days, email us. Tank Bromansky, thanks for the email. Probably won't get to it until I get back from Indy, but we saw it in the vault. Appreciate you. But yeah, Sarah, thanks for being open to this. I'm excited about it.
Oh, open to it. Yeah, no, I was like, it was random. Like on a Sunday, we were having lunch here at the house. And my husband's like, he's like, you know what? He's like, for you and Bobby to take this to the next level, you guys should really have, I like how you're calling it the summit. He's like, you guys need to have like a business conference, like to really, because we're always on the phone. We're like, what's the next get sponsors? Like, how do we get guests? Looking into potential, producers or help posting or all that kind of stuff. And he's like, you guys could just knock out so much. And I'm like, yeah, okay. We've obviously got the guest room in the basement. So because you're going to be in Florida for so long in March, we had to push it all the way to April. We probably would have been able to do it sooner, but priorities with the dating life, of course, Florida in March is going to be great. So anyway, yeah, we finalized it. And here's what's funny. Bobby did me a solid. This is going to be hilarious. You guys have heard me say, like, when Bobby's like, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. I just burned 500 calories. I just got back from my cardio workout. I specifically requested that Bobby come in Thursday night so we can go to this all moms cardio workout that I do several times a week. You will be the first man to ever come. I cannot tell you how excited my instructor is. And she's like, we got to come up with a playlist that's, good for him. And I was like, I think we should just come up with the playlist that would embarrass him, which is almost impossible to do. You don't really get embarrassed. So we will do that. We'll run back from the high fitness class. We got to put our show together that Friday at 12 o'clock. And then afterwards we can begin our summit, and we will have dinner, and we might be able to go play golf on Saturday or whatever with the whole family. But I'm telling you, my husband, my 4 kids, they're all excited to meet you, except for Gardner, for the first time in person.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah,
Uncle Bobby, here he comes.
Yeah, Gardy, we met right out of the gate. I mean, training camp 2023 summer, 23 summer, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah. When I came out for training camp.
Yeah, but this is going to be good. And you guys already know that I'm coming in with an unwavering energy to that fitness class.
Yeah.
Like you, it's going to be hilarious. And depending on what Sarah approves, there will be social posts coming from that as well.
Oh boy.
Okay, just so you don't have to be in them. You don't have to be in them. But I am probably going to be vlogging all throughout the weekend, all of which is going to have to be cleared by my host family for the weekend. This is going to be good. I'm very excited about it.
We are too.
Sure.
We are too. It'll be good.
I sent it to the family group chat after I booked my flight yesterday. And I said, guys, April 3rd through 5th, mark your calendars, the inaugural Vault Summit. That's all I said. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. And I set my itinerary. And everybody was like forgetting that you live in Columbus. And they're like, what are you guys doing? Is this for the draft? I said, no. I'm going to the Ellison household. I'm coming.
What'd your mom have to say?
They all loved it.
Yeah.
My dad, nobody loved it more than Francis. He was literally losing his
Francis,
mind.
I bet, wants to come.
Yeah, he's got like 15 different follow-up questions about how this came to be. How did it materialize? Oh, wow. Whose idea was this?
Yeah.
So
good old Trevor.
Anyway, you guys will hear more about that in the coming weeks. But thank you for an awesome week to all of you who tuned in. And like we said, we'll try to continue this momentum moving forward, especially as free agency nears, the draft nears, and everything else in between. So for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Friday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll see what I can get into the rest of the afternoon. No content plans. To be honest with you, this place is starting to kind of dwindle on Friday, media-wise. The workout stuff and the player stuff is all just getting started for the weekend. But media-wise on Radio Row, it's slow. So don't have too high expectations, but you never know. And I'm going to linger, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to hope something falls in our lap. So with that, we appreciate you guys. Have an awesome weekend. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us.